Hello. Hi, good afternoon. How is everyone? Thank you so much for joining us today. This is a great day to be in Miami, Florida, with Miami owns Shiro right here, the new Sheriff Rosie Cordero-Stutz, and as a great surprise and honor, recognizing that tomorrow is National Fentanyl Prevention and Awareness Day, we have the honor of having with us President Trump's nominee for Director of the Office of National Drug Control Policy, Sara Carter. So we're so excited that she's here. She thinks that being drug czar is going to be a tough job. I already told her she has 6 kids. It's going to be nothing compared to be the mother of 6 kids. I am the mother of much fewer, and I can tell you, 6. I don't know. We've got this. Drug czar. We got this down. We are in an ongoing fight, as everyone knows, to combat the fentanyl crisis that has ravaged this nation. And I know many of you in this room are first responders, and we have all seen firsthand the deadly effects of fentanyl and what it has done to our families, our communities. It is devastating. And this is a fight that we have been battling for many years now, fueled in part by the last administration's destruction of our border, which allowed not only drugs to come in to our country and into Florida and to our communities, but also traffickers. And that combination has really challenged our local and state officers as we tried to stay ahead of that effect. And I'm really, really proud of Florida and how we faced the crisis. And at the height of the fentanyl crisis, remember, we were losing 110,000 Americans every year to drug overdose, 70,000 of those to fentanyl. And just to put that in perspective, when Nancy Reagan first said, just say no, and I know Miami remembers this in the 80s, we lost a little over 3,000 people nationally. So to put that in perspective, we're losing 110,000 now in the middle of the opioid epidemic. And the real challenge is the number of folks that are dying, especially in the 18 to 45 age range. That is our working and fighting age range. That is the #1 killer of Americans. So of all the challenges we are facing in America, the #1 killer of working age Americans is fentanyl and overdose. Now that number has dropped significantly, thankfully. And certainly as Attorney General, as the wife of a DEA agent at the time, as the mother of children, it was one of my top priorities. But we saw this devastation that affected our families and our communities. And in Florida, we strategically, aggressively, and focused on the problem. We fought back. And we really did this by being aggressive and thinking out of the box on the things that we were proposing. And I commend President Trump. He came into office and really took hold of some of those ideas that I was pushing for as Attorney General and immediately got to work. So as Attorney General, I was one of the first AGs to call for the cartels to be declared foreign terrorist organizations, and that was back in 2023. Of course, the administration ignored those calls. I also called for Mayorkas to be removed since, as he repeatedly said, the border was secure over and over and over. I was litigating and uncovering information that showed they were letting in mostly unvetted, even quotas pushing them into our country, 11 million to 20 million people, which on the conservative side is more than the population of 42 of our states in a very short period of time. And the trick with that is there is absolutely no way, with the incentivized, almost forced, planned, strategic surge of individuals into our country, there is absolutely no way that you can methodically and securely vet that many people, and they knew that. So here we are in Florida and as a nation trying to combat that. And I really felt for the men and women of law enforcement, when they signed up to do these jobs, probably had no idea what they would be facing in terms of forced challenges upon them outside of what you would consider the traditional crime and law enforcement. So we sued the last administration for these unlawful policies time and time again. We won, and we uncovered the plans that were in place that were devastating our communities. We sent law enforcement to the border to help from Florida, and I commend Governor DeSantis for doing that and prioritizing that. We ramped up interdiction efforts within Florida, gave money and resources to our local police and sheriff's office to combat fentanyl. In fact, we led the nation in fentanyl seizures. So we aided with the border to stop the surge. We stepped up our own interdiction efforts by dedicating resources. We made sure that our first responders, not just paramedics and others that you would think would have life-saving treatment on hand, we made sure that our first responders that wore a badge, our law enforcement men and women, were trained and had on hand naloxone to be ready to save lives if that moment should arrive. And we know that it did time and time again. We also encouraged our citizens that may have had a substance abuse problem to get help. We partnered with organizations on how folks could find, based on their income and location, where they could find help with an addiction, because we knew that fentanyl was being laced in every traditional drug imaginable. And the problem with that is people were ingesting lethal doses of fentanyl and never knowing it, especially our children. At the height, the DEA said 7 out of 10 counterfeit pills had a lethal dose of fentanyl. Fentanyl counterfeit pills like Adderall or Xanax or some other thing that a child thought they might be taking and ended up taking a lethal dose of fentanyl. In fact, the most rapidly growing age range for overdose, fentanyl overdose, are children under the age of 14. In Florida, we strategically hit this on every area. We fought back with everything we had, and it worked. We are seeing the death and destruction caused by illicit fentanyl that flooded here from China through Mexico into our country. We are finally seeing the numbers start to respond to those efforts. In the most recent data available from the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, there was almost a 20% decrease in fentanyl deaths. And here in the Miami-Dade Medical Examiner's District, there was a 2% decrease in fentanyl deaths during that same time period. So there are positive indications that Florida is doing it right. That because we have been strategic and aggressive and relentless, we are beating the national average. Back in 2017, Florida classified fentanyl analogs. That is the fentanyl compound that is adjusted slightly to get around the law. We scheduled that as a Schedule I substance. This change allowed Florida law enforcement to more aggressively go after these chemical compounds and those that were trafficking it and put them behind bars so they couldn't harm other people. They could get traffickers off the street that were peddling fentanyl, which is incredibly potent and incredibly deadly. Many states followed our lead. And now our federal government has done the same. As soon as I became a senator, one of the first things I did was co-sponsor the HALT Fentanyl Act and push for its passage out of the Judiciary Committee where I was initially assigned. It was the first bill that I got to participate in and getting out of the Judiciary Committee. It passed off the Senate floor. And I can tell you, I also had the privilege to be with President Trump when he signed that into law. That law languished under the last administration, under the Judiciary Committee. And within the first 6 months of this new administration, we have passed that out of committee, gotten it off the floor, and it's been signed by President Trump. The new law ensures federal agents and prosecutors have the tools that they need to go after traffickers of fentanyl-related substances. And when we see these compounds adjusted slightly, that they can't get around the law, and that our prosecutors can put traffickers behind bars where they belong. Families that have lost children to fentanyl-related substances have been begging for this change in the law for years. And it is time that we delivered to give them justice, closure, and I want to thank all of them. Some of them are not here today, but those that pushed for this, many Floridians who lost loved ones. Thank you for never giving up. Thank you for being there with President Trump when he signed the law. I'm grateful for President Trump's leadership for reversing course and making sure we are indeed going after the #1 killer of Americans, that we are using every tool at our disposal. By declaring the cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, we are able to bring other assets, other agencies, other resources to go after the true cause of those that not only profit off the sale of fentanyl, but strategically want to push a deadly substance into our country, which again is the leading killer of working and fighting age Americans. Yesterday, the administration announced that they will be surging military assets into international waters around Venezuela to go after the root cause of much of the narco trade, and Maduro, who is the head of a narco organization. That is action. That is someone that hears the calls of Americans that says, pay attention to what is killing Americans. Do not be distracted. And President Trump heard that. He not only made the designation that cartels are foreign terrorist organizations, he has now taken action to surge resources to protect our people and this country. One thing that has been demonstrated since January is this administration does not get distracted from its goal of putting the country first, of putting its people's safety first, and rolling up its sleeves, thinking outside the box, and getting things done. And I can tell you, not just as your newest United States Senator, or as an Attorney General who made this my priority to save lives, or as the wife of a DEA agent at the time and a career law enforcement officer, but as a mother who has children who face these challenges just like every other parent in this nation. It's time that we had a leader in office that took action and didn't just stand at a podium and talk about the problems. That's what leadership looks like. And thankfully, the American people are seeing the delivery on promises of someone said, please make me the head of your executive branch and I will deliver. And look at what's happening now. So in anticipation of tomorrow being the National Fentanyl Prevention and Awareness Day, to be able to stand here with you to say, as your newest US Senator, we've passed the HALT Fentanyl Act. President Trump just announced he's deploying military assets to combat the #1 killer of Americans. And to stand with the mother of 6 who's about to be your drug czar. It's a pretty impressive way to celebrate the National Fentanyl Prevention and Awareness Day. I want to speak directly to Floridians for just one moment before you hear from the shero right here. You have a lot of law enforcement men and women who signed up to do these jobs, to stand on that thin line for your safety. And I've said here multiple times, the #1 killer right now is fentanyl. If you are suffering from an addiction to any drug, know that fentanyl can be laced into that drug, and it could be the last time that you use drugs. One pill can kill. No matter your age, no matter where you come from, no matter your job, one pill can kill. And the amount of pills, counterfeit pills that have a lethal dose is still 5 and 10, 50% shot, you're dead. So if you've ever thought about getting help, now is the time to do it. And you can go to treatmentatlas.org to find out how. Thank you very much for everybody to be with us today. Can't be a day of prevention and awareness unless we talk about how to prevent and how to be aware of the #1 killer of Americans. So you've helped us do that by being here today. Those of you that are covering this today, thank you. You are helping us get the word out and quite possibly helping us save lives. We appreciate that. And now, Sheriff Rosie.
Thank you very much, Senator Moody. Appreciate you. Welcome to the Miami-Dade Sheriff's Office, and we extend a special welcome to Sara Carter, President Donald Trump's nominee for the Director of the Office of National Drug Control Policy. The impact of illicit drugs in our nation is well documented, having disrupted families, destabilized neighborhoods, and adversely affected entire communities. Fentanyl poses a particular risk due to its frequent, and I'm going to grab my glasses because I'm sorry. Should have had these on. Fentanyl poses a particular risk due to its frequent inclusion in substances such as heroin, methamphetamine, and cocaine, often without the user's awareness. Recent data from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention indicates that synthetic opioids like fentanyl are now the primary contributors to overdose fatalities in the United States, with Florida ranking second nationally in such deaths. This is an issue that demands urgent attention and action. The Miami-Dade Sheriff's Office remains fully committed to addressing this threat, utilizing all available resources. Our Organized Crimes Bureau, Narcotics Section, works closely with state and federal partners, including the DEA, the South Florida High Intensity Drug Trafficking Area Network, and the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. Through initiatives such as the State Assistance for Fentanyl Eradication, SAFE, our narcotics section conducts investigations on illegal drug activities at multiple levels, including street operations, interdiction efforts, and comprehensive long-term investigations. In 2024, we executed 29 fentanyl-related operations, resulting in the seizure of 11.8 kilograms of fentanyl and the arrest of 16 traffickers. These targeted actions contributed to a reduction in fentanyl-related overdose deaths right here in Miami-Dade County compared to 2023. We appreciate Senator Ashley Moody's leadership as co-sponsor of the HALT Fentanyl Act and her ongoing dedication to safeguarding our communities from the opioid crisis. We also thank nominee Sara Carter for her presence and her support. This legislation provides the Miami-Dade Sheriff's Office with an essential tool, enhancing collaboration with federal agencies. Collectively, we will continue to investigate, apprehend, and bring to justice those responsible for distributing and profiting from this dangerous opioid. Thank you, ma'am.
All right, well, thank you again for joining us. And if anyone has any